It all started on a gray Monday morning, the kind that carried no promise, just a dull, heavy stillness that hung over Lincoln Ridge High School like fog. The students trudged to the halls, earbuds in, heads down, each lost in their own world. But something felt different that day. A tension, thin and invisible, rippled beneath the surface, the kind of tension that foreshadows a storm. That storm had a name, Malik Carter, the new kid, 17, tall, quiet, and carrying the weary composure of someone who'd seen too much for his age. He had just transferred from a predominantly black neighborhood in Atlanta to the suburban school where his face stood out like ink on a blank page. For Malik, it wasn't the first time he'd been the only one. But he didn't know that this place would test his silence, his patience, and even his identity. By lunch, whispers had already spread, who he was, where he came from, why he talked funny, why he walked different. None of it mattered, really, except to one person, Tyler Briggs, the kind of boy who thrived on fear and attention, captain of the wrestling team, golden-haired, smirking, a self-proclaimed king of the cafeteria. He saw Malik and saw a target, something new to dominate. When the incident happened, it didn't look like much at first. Just another confrontation near the lockers. A shove, a laugh, a crowd forming fast. Then, in a blur, Tyler's arm was around Malik's neck. The laughter turned sharp. Some recorded on their phones. Malik didn't fight back, not yet. He stood there, choking quietly, eyes locked on Tyler's. Calm, unbreaking. And in that moment, as the crowd howled, no one realized they had just witnessed the beginning of a story that would shake their school, split their town, and force everyone to confront what they really believed about power, race, and justice. Malik Carter's first week at Lincoln Ridge High was supposed to be uneventful. His mother had prayed for it. After years of moving from place to place, she finally found a job that seemed stable, an office position in a quiet suburb outside of Nashville. The neighborhood was neat, the lawns trimmed, the people polite in that distant, careful way that said, "We see you, but we don't really know how to talk to you." For Malik, this move meant starting over again. Another school, another set of faces staring at him in that curious, measuring way. He had learned to read people quickly. It was a survival instinct by now. In his old school, he had friends who looked like him, who understood what it meant to grow up guarded but proud. Here, he felt like a shadow moving through unfamiliar light. His first morning, he walked into the cafeteria, and it fell silent for half a second, just enough time to feel the air shift. He found an empty table near the back, pulled out his sketchbook, and started drawing. Malik loved art. It was his refuge, a way to create beauty out of things that hurt. But at Lincoln Ridge, even that felt like a statement. By third period, teachers were already noticing him. Ms. Jensen, the history teacher, asked him where he was from, then nodded approvingly when he said Atlanta, as if the city's name alone explained who he was. A few students were friendly, polite enough to smile, but hesitant to sit near him. Others just stared. It wasn't overt hostility at first. It was curiosity dipped in quiet prejudice. And then there was Tyler Briggs, the kind of boy who never had to try hard to be noticed. His father owned one of the biggest car dealerships in town. His family name was painted on the side of every Little League field and church donation plaque. Tyler had been raised on quiet entitlement, the unspoken rule that his confidence was charm, his arrogance leadership, and his cruelty just a joke. When Malik walked into the gym during PE, Tyler's eyes followed him. There was something about Malik's composure that irritated him. The new kid wasn't scared. He didn't bow his head or shrink away. That quiet strength, the kind that comes from enduring more than most people could imagine, felt like a challenge. At first, it was subtle. A few snide comments about Malik's clothes. A loud joke about city boys not knowing how to lift weights. It was enough to get laughs from Tyler's friends, enough to plant seeds of tension. Malik ignored it. He always had. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Don't give them a reason, baby. Keep your peace." But peace is fragile when someone decides to break it. It was during the second week when things began to shift. Malik had outperformed everyone in an art assignment that hung proudly on the classroom wall. A powerful portrait of a young black man staring into cracked glass, his reflection fractured. The teacher called it hauntingly beautiful. Tyler called it weird. After class, whispers followed Malik down the hallway. He heard fragments. Thinks he's special. Teacher's pet, that new kid. Still, he didn't react. Not until the cafeteria incident. Tyler and his crew had cornered him by the vending machines. Someone recorded on their phone as the group closed in. Malik didn't even look up until he felt the first shove. When Tyler's arm locked around his neck, the crowd's laughter echoed through the hall. For Malik, time slowed. He didn't fight back, not because he was scared, but because he understood something deeper. This wasn't just a fight. It was a test. When the teacher arrived and broke it up, Malik simply straightened his shirt and walked away. He didn't speak. He didn't complain. But that silence, that calm, unsettled Tyler in ways he couldn't explain. And for Malik, that moment marked a quiet turning point. Because every time someone recorded that video and shared online, mocking, laughing, the truth spread faster than they knew. What they didn't realize was that Malik wasn't done. He was just waiting for the right moment to show them who he truly was. By Tuesday morning, the video had already spread to the school like wildfire. It had started as a short clip on Snapchat, grainy, shaky footage of Tyler Briggs putting Malik Carter in a chokehold near the lockers while the crowd laughed. The clip barely lasted 15 seconds, but that was long enough to make Malik the center of attention in the worst way possible. At first, most of the students watched it for entertainment. A cruel joke passed around group chats, captioned with laughing emojis. Some said he should have fought back. Others said he had it coming. A few whispered that Tyler had gone too far, but their voices drowned in the noise of mockery. Malik saw the video too. He didn't need to. People made sure he did. On the bus, in the cafeteria, on every glowing phone screen that flickered when he passed. But instead of anger, what he felt was a slow, heavy ache deep inside. Not because of what they said, but because of what it revealed. How easily cruelty could turn into entertainment when it was aimed at someone like him. He went home that day without saying a word. His mother noticed, of course. She always did. But Malik kept his thoughts to himself. He'd learned that silence could be armor. He spent the evening in his room, sketching furiously. Page after page filled with dark, powerful imagery. Hands reaching, faces shouting, a boy standing alone in a storm. Each stroke was a release of pain that words couldn't carry. But Lincoln Ridge was not a place that forgot easily, not when gossip had fuel. By the end of the week, Malik's name had become a symbol of ridicule for some, pity for others. Teachers avoided addressing the video directly. The principal called it a minor altercation. Tyler got a one-day suspension, which he treated like a badge of honor. For him, the video had only made his reputation stronger. People laughed louder around him now. His swagger grew bolder. He'd humiliate Malik with casual remarks, small jabs disguised as jokes, each one sharper than the last. But what Tyler didn't realize was that Malik wasn't breaking. He was observing, learning. Every time Tyler threw a jab, Malik saw the cracks beneath his arrogance, the insecurity, the need to control others to feel powerful. Then came the wrestling sign-up week. Malik had never wrestled competitively before, but had grown up boxing with his uncle in Atlanta, an old Marine who taught him discipline, movement, and patience. He hadn't planned on joining any sports at Lincoln Ridge. But when he saw the sign-up sheet on the gym door, something inside him shifted. He didn't sign up for revenge. He signed up for respect. When his name appeared on the roster, the school buzzed with disbelief. Tyler laughed the loudest. The new kid thinks he can wrestle? He joked loudly in the locker room, surrounded by his teammates. They all laughed, except for one, Evan, a quiet sophomore who'd seen the video and hadn't liked what he saw. He respected Malik's composure. "Coach, this can't be serious," Tyler said when the teams were announced. But Coach Raines, a man who believed in second chances, nodded solemnly. "Everyone deserves a shot. You'd be surprised what quiet kids can do when they got something to prove." Training began, and it didn't take long for people to notice something about Malik. He didn't talk much, didn't brag, didn't boast. But he moved differently, fluid, controlled, balanced. Tyler mocked him, calling him city boy, but Malik didn't react. Every insult slid off him like rain on glass. Still, the tension grew. Each practice was an unspoken war. Glances across the mat, muscles tightening, breaths held. Tyler wanted to crush Malik, to prove dominance. Malik wanted only one thing, to face him again, fair and square, with no laughter, no crowd, no chokehold. Just truth. Outside the gym, the world kept watching. The video resurfaced again on TikTok, this time with captions like, "When a quiet kid gets bullied," and "Who do you think would win now?" It sparked debates online and whispers in hallways. For the first time, sympathy began to stir. Even some of Tyler's friends started to feel uneasy about what had happened. The laughter they'd shared now sounded cruel in hindsight. People began to question the culture that had allowed it. The teachers who looked away, the principal who downplayed it, the classmates who recorded instead of helping. Malik, meanwhile, stayed focused. Every morning before school, he jogged to the cold streets, his breath fogging in the dawn air. Every evening, he trained at home, push-ups, stretches, drills, all while replaying that moment in his head. Not the humiliation, but the stillness he had felt inside it. That calm was his strength, and he was ready to use it. When the annual inter-school wrestling tournament was announced, the crowd immediately wanted one thing, a rematch. Tyler versus Malik. The whispers grew until the coach finally confirmed it. They'd meet in the semifinals. Word spread across Lincoln Ridge like wildfire. The cafeteria, the locker rooms, the hallways. Everyone was talking about it. Some expected Tyler to humiliate Malik again. Others secretly hoped the new kid would finally get his justice. Malik said nothing. But the night before the match, he stood alone in his room, staring at his reflection in the mirror. The same reflection he had once drawn fractured in his art. Now it stared back at him whole. He wasn't fighting just for himself anymore. He was fighting for every quiet kid who had been mocked, every voice that had been silenced, every injustice that had been brushed aside with laughter. And when the day came, the gym was packed beyond capacity. Students filled the bleachers, phones ready, eyes wide with anticipation. Tyler stood across the mat, grinning, confident, ready to perform for his crowd again. Malik stood opposite, calm, still, a storm contained within human form. The referee's whistle cut the air, and for the first time, the world would see Malik fight back. The gym hummed with electricity, that tense, collective silence that comes right before something big happens. Every seat in the bleachers was filled. The banners hung from the rafters. The smell of sweat and dust thick in the air, and the sound of sneakers squeaking echoed faintly on the polished floor. Tyler Briggs stood at the edge of the mat, cracking his knuckles, rolling his neck, basking in the cheers of his friends. The golden boy of Lincoln Ridge, confident, cocky, every bit the hero in his own story. Across from him, Malik Carter stretched quietly, headphones around his neck, eyes lowered, expression unreadable. To everyone watching, it was more than just a wrestling match. It was a showdown between arrogance and dignity, between the one who mocked and the one who endured, between silence and noise. The whistle blew. Tyler lunged first, aggressive, fast, the same way he always dominated his opponents. He grabbed for Malik's shoulder, but Malik slipped away, light on his feet. A murmur went through the crowd. Tyler came again, this time harder, locking his arm around Malik's torso. The movement was strong, practiced, but Malik didn't resist. He pivoted, shifted his weight, and Tyler's balance faltered for a fraction of a second. Then Malik struck, swift and precise. He ducked, spun, and took Tyler down with a move so fluid it looked choreographed. The crowd gasped. Tyler grunted, embarrassed more than hurt, scrambling to his feet. His face turned red, not from exertion, but from humiliation. He rushed again, reckless this time. Malik sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and sent him sprawling. The gym erupted. For the first time in his life, Tyler wasn't in control. Coach Raines watched silently, his arms crossed. He had seen countless matches in his career, but this one was different. There was something deeper here, something that couldn't be measured in points or pins. It was a clash of pride, of history, of everything unspoken between them. The match intensified. Tyler's movements became wild, desperate. He was fighting not just Malik, but the loss of his image, the laughter, the phone cameras recording every moment, the realization that his dominance was slipping away in front of everyone. Malik, meanwhile, moved with calm precision. Every motion carried purpose. Every dodge, every counter, every breath was a quiet act of defiance. He wasn't trying to humiliate Tyler. He was teaching him something about restraint, about strength that didn't need a shout. By the third round, the score was even. Sweat glistened on their faces. The crowd was split now, half cheering for Tyler, half for Malik. The same students who once laughed at that hallway video were now on their feet, shouting Malik's name. Tyler's frustration boiled over. He lunged again, too aggressively, and Malik caught him in a perfect reversal, a clean, controlled takedown that left Tyler pinned flat against the mat. The referee's hand hit the floor once, twice, 3 times. Match! The whistle blew. The crowd exploded. Malik released his grip and stood slowly, chest rising and falling, eyes fixed on Tyler. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He simply extended his hand, offering to help Tyler up. For a moment, Tyler didn't move. His pride war with the truth written in front of him. Around him, his teammates stood silent. The laughter that had once fueled him was gone. In its place was something new, respect, quiet and unfamiliar. Finally, Tyler took Malik's hand. Malik pulled him up, steady and firm. The gesture was simple, but it carried weight far beyond the gym walls. The crowd, unsure how to react, fell into stunned applause. Some clapped hesitantly. Others stood. Even Coach Raines nodded, eyes glinting with something close to pride. Tyler stepped back, chest heaving, face pale. The humiliation of that first video replayed in his mind, the laughter, the chokehold, the cruelty. Now, standing face to face with the same boy he'd mocked, he felt something he had never felt before, shame. He looked at Malik, really looked at him, and saw not an enemy, but a mirror reflecting everything he'd tried to hide. His need to dominate, his fear of being less, his ignorance of what strength really was. As Malik walked off the mat, the students parted like waves. Phones recorded again, but this time, the story was different. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about redemption. Tyler stood frozen for a long moment before he followed. He didn't know what to say, and Malik didn't need to hear it. The silence between them said enough. Outside the gym, the air was crisp. The sky had begun to darken, streaked with gold from the setting sun. Malik stopped at the school's front steps, feeling the cool breeze against his skin. For the first time since coming to Lincoln Ridge, he felt something like peace. Behind him, the door creaked open. Footsteps approached, hesitant, slow. Tyler's voice, low and trembling, broke the quiet. "Hey, But Malik didn't turn around. He didn't need to hear the words. Sometimes silence was forgiveness. He just nodded once and walked away. Tyler stood there, staring after him, a heavy realization pressing on his chest. He had built his power on other people's pain, and it had taken the quiet strength of the boy he tried to break to show him what real strength looked like. Inside the gym, the students were still buzzing, replaying the match on their phones, shouting Malik's name. But for Malik, it wasn't about fame or revenge. It was about balance, about finally reclaiming the dignity that had been stolen. The morning after the match, Lincoln Ridge High felt different. The same halls that once carried laughter at Malik's expense now carried whispers of awe and disbelief. The video of the wrestling match had gone viral overnight, not just within the school, but beyond it. Clips spread across social media with captions like, "When grace beats hate," and "Strength doesn't always shout." For once, the story wasn't about humiliation or cruelty. It was about a quiet victory, one that exposed more than just a bully. It revealed a truth about the way people watched, judged, and stood by. Teachers greeted Malik differently that morning. Warmer smiles, softer voices, longer looks of respect. Some tried to apologize without words, their guilt showing in their eyes. The principal, who had once brushed off the hallway incident as a misunderstanding, called Malik into his office. His tone was careful, formal. He spoke about school image, zero tolerance, and rebuilding community trust. But Malik listened silently, offering polite nods. He didn't need apologies. He needed change. Outside, the whispers grew. Tyler Briggs had skipped school that day. Rumors swirled. Some said he was embarrassed. Others said he was suspended again after an altercation with a teammate who mocked him for losing. But the truth was simpler. Tyler was home, sitting on the edge of his bed, watching the video over and over. For the first time, he didn't see himself as a hero. He saw the cruelty in his grin, the mockery in his eyes, the fear he had caused. He saw Malik's calmness, the control, the dignity, and it gnawed at him. His mother had watched the match, too. She hadn't said much, but when she placed her hand on his shoulder, there was disappointment in her silence. Tyler realized how deep his actions had cut, not just into Malik, but into his own sense of decency. He'd spent years believing power came from dominance, that strength meant being louder, meaner, tougher. But Malik had dismantled that belief in less than 10 minutes on a wrestling mat. By the end of the week, Tyler came back to school. The attention that once followed him had shifted. His friends still hung around, but the laughter was different, quieter, uncertain. He walked down the hall past Malik, who was at his locker, sketchbook in hand. For a moment, their eyes met. Tyler stopped. He didn't expect forgiveness. He didn't deserve it, but he felt compelled to speak, even if it meant exposing his shame. "Hey," he said quietly. Malik didn't respond. Tyler swallowed hard and continued, "I was wrong." There were no grand gestures, no dramatic apologies, just a few simple words that hung heavy in the air. Malik closed his sketchbook and turned slightly, his eyes calm. He didn't need to say anything. Sometimes, silence was the truest form of grace. He nodded once, a small but powerful acknowledgement. Then he walked away. For Tyler, that moment marked the beginning of something new, a reckoning. He joined community service programs that semester, volunteered to mentor younger students, and spoke an assembly months later about what he called the cost of cruelty. He didn't name Malik directly, but everyone knew who he meant. Malik, meanwhile, thrived quietly. His artwork gained attention in local competitions. One of his sketches, a black and white portrait of two hands clasped together across a crack, was displayed in the school lobby. Beneath it, a simple title, Strength Redefined. Life didn't become perfect after that. There were still looks, still whispers, still moments of subtle prejudice that lingered in the edges of everyday life. But the school had changed. Conversations began, uncomfortable but necessary ones. Teachers introduced lessons about racial empathy, respect, and power dynamics. Students who once stayed silent began speaking up. The hallway where the incident had taken place became a quiet symbol, not of shame, but of transformation. Months later, Malik stood on the graduation stage, the late spring sun warm on his face. His name was called, and the gym erupted in applause. He walked across the stage, his gown swaying, his heart steady. When he turned to look at the crowd, he saw Tyler among the graduates, clapping sincerely. Their eyes met once more. Not as enemies, not even as rivals, but as two young men who had both learned something unforgettable. Because in the end, the story wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about winning. It was about the quiet power of self-control in the face of hate. It was about what happens when dignity meets cruelty and wins not through violence, but through truth. As Malik stepped off the stage, his mother hugged him tightly. "I told you," she whispered through tears. "You don't need to raise your voice to be heard." And in that moment, Malik finally understood what she meant. Strength wasn't in the shout. It was in the stillness, the kind that forces the world to stop and listen. That summer, a local news channel covered his story. Not the fight, but the message. They called it "The Boy Who Changed the Conversation." The segment aired across Tennessee, sparking discussions in schools statewide about bullying, race, and silent resilience. Malik didn't see himself as a hero. He just wanted to be seen as human, and maybe that was the most powerful victory of all, because what began as a moment of hate became a lesson in humanity, one that reminded everyone watching that strength isn't measured in how hard you hit, but in how deeply you heal.